Welcome to the Gumboot garden. I'm April and this is my garden space. It is November here and we're located in Auckland, New Zealand. So we're just about to head into our summer season. So I'm really excited to show you guys everything that I have been growing this year. We're kind of in that perfect middle spot where everything has just had a huge growth spurt, but we haven't received any of the pests or the diseases yet, and we still haven't gotten any harvest yet, but I'm pretty sure it's soon to come. I'll have you come through the archways here because just back here is some garlic that should be ready to harvest over the next few months, and we'll have a look to see how that's going. I've tried garlic a few different years and this is the best year that I've had so far. So this year I decided to not plant it on the shortest day of the year, but actually a month earlier. So I planted this in sometime in May and I have had a lot better luck in terms of rust. I think now you can kind of see that it is starting to die off and get a bit of disease. I'm just waiting a little bit longer to see if it's going to bulb up. But this is the tallest that my garlic has ever grown. This is the healthiest that it's looked throughout all of winter and spring, regardless of how it looks now. But that's pretty much all I have left of my winter garden. So we're gonna move on into the summer stuff now. So I'm gonna start with a bed that's just behind me because that is a new bed this year. If you have been around for a while, you know that where I'm standing right now and where a lot of this pepper bed is, it used to be completely overrun with bush and vines, and that is no longer. In this bed, I have about 1 million different types of peppers growing. Everything from cherry tomatoes, serranos, jalapenos, habaneros, random experiments I found at the garden center. I don't even know. I have, red marconis. I have Thai chilies. So many different varieties and so many things I am so excited for. And over the past month, they have put on so much growth, and I can see that some of them are already starting to flower. In this bed, I also have 3 stakes in there. If you look more closely, these are zucchini plants and they are flowering beautifully. We have a 1, 2, 3 potential guys that will be ready over the next week, probably. Hopefully they've all been pollinated. I grow all of my zucchini vertically up those colorful stakes, and I do that just because it saves on space, it helps prevent powdery mildew, and it looks really cool and adds a bit of depth and vibrancy into the garden. So I quite like growing vertically, and like I said, I do that with all of my zucchinis. So I have separated them out this year, kind of spread out the stakes, where last year I kind of had them all together in one space. I did say it helps prevent powdery mildew, but it doesn't completely stop it. Last year I had a couple plants get it and then it kind of spread. So this year I have spread out my stakes a little bit more in hopes that that doesn't happen. And we're just gonna see how they go this year. The other thing I really like to do is grow my pumpkins sprawling out of my garden beds. This is a Henry's Pomeranz pumpkin that has already gotten so huge. We have had 1 little guy flower. I'm hoping again that has been pollinated. But even if it hasn't, I don't think we're gonna be at a lack of Henry Pomeranz pumpkins this year. From this bed, let's move on to our tomato bed. This is my tomato bed every single year with all of my indeterminate tomatoes, and that's because I have that trellis built into it already, that it's just nice that they can just kind of grow up. However, the trellis is definitely not tall enough to keep them upright all summer. So this year, I think we're gonna need to actually do something about that. I'm growing a new variety of oxheart tomatoes. These are called Albenga oxhearts, and they are already so huge. They have just started to put on their first little set of flowers here, and they're already almost as tall as the trellis. These are by far the biggest tomatoes I have grown in this bed, the healthiest looking. They have such a thick stem here. They're monsters, really. And I have a feeling I'm going to need to probably double the height of this trellis, if possible, this year, just to make sure that we get a really nice crop of tomatoes out of them. But these are supposed to be those like big, thick, meaty tomatoes. My regular oxheart tomatoes I grew last year, which I do have a couple of those just behind me. They definitely did not get as big as I wanted them to last year, which is why I'm trying a different variety, and I'm already impressed by this variety, and it hasn't even grown me any tomatoes yet. Moving on from the Albenga oxhearts, I do have a couple of the regular oxhearts that I grew last year, which I'm already not as impressed with them as I am the Albenga ones. They are much, much smaller than the Albenga ones, so I have really high hopes for those Albenga oxhearts. Next to that, I have this poor little guy. I bought him at the garden center on my birthday, and I just didn't get him into the ground soon enough, and he is definitely nutrient deficient. He sat in his pot for a while. He does look like he's starting to come back now, but I don't think he's ever going to be what he could have been had I planted him earlier, before he kind of ran out of nutrients in his potting soil from the garden center. But this is a Tigrella, so this is your normal size tomato. It's an heirloom. It's red and it has yellow stripes. It does have a few like tiny little tomatoes on it growing that are trying. I don't know. We're gonna keep him in there. Like I said, he looks like he's coming back a little bit, so we're gonna see what exactly he does. Moving on from that poor guy, I have 3 Dr. Ritchie's plants. I planted 3 Dr. Ritchie's last year, and they didn't do well at all. I think one of them died. One of them produced these like weird tomatoes that were small. They had purple stripes. The plant itself was smaller, and the tomatoes, they tasted like stinky feet, literally like stinky feet. And then the third of them did produce like the normal Dr. Ritchie tomato. However, they were small as well, so they never really got to the big size, and then it died off quickly. So we're trying it again this year, and hopefully we'll have better luck, and hopefully we'll get some of those big tomatoes. So it does have some flowers. They do have some flowers on them now. Hopefully we'll find out soon what we're going to get with that. Then we come over here, and there are a couple of black cherry tomatoes. The black cherry tomatoes are obviously cherry tomatoes. They have a bit of a darker skin. They're a little bit sweeter, and it takes a little bit longer for the birds to catch on that they're actually ready to go and ready to eat. So that is nice. And at the end, I have 2 sun gold tomatoes, and the sun gold tomatoes, again, they're another cherry tomato. This is actually one that you guys had suggested for me to get, and from what I can tell, this is the first year that the seed company that I buy seeds from has actually had these seeds, so that was really lucky. But sun gold tomatoes are small cherry tomatoes that are supposed to have a really, really nice taste to them. So we got a couple of those growing. They actually have little fruits on them already as well, so we're gonna get to taste them soon. At the front of these beds, you can probably see this here, these are more peppers, guys. So I have 12 peppers on either side that I'm growing along with the tomatoes. For the most part, these are all your typical green bell peppers. Actually, I think some of them, there might be a mix. Some might be yellow, some might be red. I'm not sure, but these are your typical bell peppers. 24 plants. I haven't had a good regular bell pepper harvest in a few years now. Last year I planted these peppers here in the same spot, but I planted marigolds that grow really tall. Same thing, I had calendula in here, and everything just got like as tall as the indeterminate tomatoes did and shaded out all of the peppers. So I just had these little rinky-dink peppers growing in this bed. So this year I'm hoping that with different marigolds, I planted French marigolds in here this year, I'm hoping that with the flowers not shading them out, they are going to get big and large, and we're going to get lots of peppers off them this year. If not, then I know that peppers and tomatoes don't grow well together, but I think they will. So these are the marigolds I have in here. I just kind of planted them spaced out in the bed. Some of them are flowering already, others are not. But there is a big difference between your French marigolds and your other type of marigolds. I am growing both this year, but in this particular bed, sticking with French marigolds, they are the short, petite ones that won't grow too tall. Otherwise, they can grow like a meter tall, which I was not aware of. I just thought all marigolds just grew short, and that's not true. And again, I have a couple pumpkins growing out of the garden beds and into the pathways. Then this spot behind me, just alongside the shed, that is the garden space. It still needs to be amended and planted into again. I think typically I grow maybe peppers, maybe some sunflowers there. This year I think I'm going to try and grow some okra, maybe some more sunflowers there in hopes that one of them grows. But as you can see right now, it's shaded out for a lot of the day until the sun kind of gets over here in the afternoon. It does get afternoon sun, I think. Mostly all afternoon sun or late afternoon, evening sun. I'm not sure it's going to be long enough for the okra to grow there. But you know, everything's an experiment, isn't it, in the garden? So that's what we're gonna put there, but it's just not there yet. And then I have my dahlia plant that is growing. That's been there for a few years now. It's in a tire that I've just spray painted. Again, I like to keep my garden colorful. So, you know, when you're growing things, there's a lot of green. So I like to add more vibrant colors into the garden, whether it be with the trellises, with flowers, with tires, just to bring some color in and make it a little bit more fun. However, what's not fun, and you guys will know if you have been here for a while, are those. They are out already. Right there, that is a spider's nest. I'm already finding those big spider's nests here. They're everywhere, guys. I'm infested with them now. I haven't seen any yet, but I know, literally, knock on wood, it's only a matter of time before they're like jumping out at me. And Allie has already warned me that those sweet peas up there, he's like, that's a bad idea. They're gonna be in those, and I know it. But they're so pretty. Once I see them, I think I'm just gonna be paranoid, but I'm gonna try and not be. I'm gonna try and work on my fear of spiders a little bit more. Trust me, I've already come such a far way. I've already come such a long way. I mean, when I was younger, I hated those little tiny ones that run around in the garden, and now it's just those big ones. So I'm doing really, really well, and I'm still trying to work on it. But we're gonna come up around those dahlias and into the in-ground space. So I have extended my in-ground space this year. Last year, that was all growing space. This was all growing space. But now, all of this, where all of that silver beet is growing, where I haven't planted anything yet here, this is new growing space. Where all of those weeds are, again, that is new growing space. I have previously dug all of the weeds out of that, but obviously did nothing with it. So now I have to redo that, but I'm almost there. I have redone a lot of this over the past couple days, and I'm trying to do little bits at a time as I get time. And what I'm doing, you can kind of see the different phases here in my garden. It starts off with all of these weeds, which originally I took a shovel to and just dug up the top layer of soil. However, in my lack of doing anything, they have all grown back. So this time I am just weeding out all of these weeds. Then I'm taking my pitchfork type thing and I'm digging it into the soil. I do have to wet the soil first because we're dealing with this really hard, nasty clay that is just so tough to deal with. So I'm soaking this and then going into it with the pitchfork, just to break it up and make it a little bit looser, because I'm only putting a couple inches of compost down. So once I break up this soil a little bit, then I'm putting down sheep pellets and a couple inches or an inch of nice garden soil. and we're planting into this. Once this is planted into, that's when I'm covering this with all pea straw. So the pea straw is just going to help retain the moisture, just because so we're not using quite as much water. I bought 3 bales of pea straw this year. It goes quite far, but it's not going to completely cover all of my garden space, but it is going to be on this whole entire in-ground space. That was the primary reason that I got it. This space here, the soil dries out super quickly. I know it's clay, but it dries out really quickly, and then the water just runs off of it. So things don't grow awesome here. So we're trying to sort that out. Putting the pea straw down. The pea straw should also help to give nutrients back eventually once it breaks down into this soil, to just try and help it be better. The pea straw will break down. That was fresh pea straw that you just saw. That was a bed that I just planted out yesterday. The section down here, the pea straw has been into it for a couple weeks now, and you can kind of see it actually looks like it's not even there, but it has just mellowed in color. This is the first year that I'm using it. I don't know if it's going to last all summer. I hope that it does. But this is another experiment to hope, and hopefully I can help retain some of the water in here so we don't have to buy as much, because the rainwater is just not enough in the summertime for us to run our house off of and run the garden off of. In this bed, so next to the garden shed, you can see in the corner here, I have my spring, not summer crops over there. I have some cauliflower plants. I have 2 different types of cauliflower. There's like a Sicilian purple and a giant Naples. I also have some Russian red kale. The Russian red kale is a little bit softer than your, was it Cavanero or something like that? The other one. It's a little bit softer than the other one. You can put it in salads, but you can also cook it up like a spinach. So it's kind of multi-use. So I thought that would be better suited for our needs than the other one. I do also have a couple heads of cabbage left. Now, these, I really need to get them in. I don't have any freezer space already. Can you believe it? But these are starting to get eaten by the bugs. So I need to get them out of here soon so they don't go to waste, but I already have some in the freezer. We've been eating heaps of it, so we just need to keep eating heaps more, I guess. So cabbage is on the menu this week and next week. Then I also have these guys in here. They are a bush pumpkin. Honestly, they look so yellow. They don't look good. Even my cucumbers here that I have going up the trellis, they actually look better on camera than they do in real life. They look yellow. However, I have a couple butternut pumpkins in here, and the butternuts look really good. There's also multiple stakes in here. You know what the stakes mean. The stakes mean zucchinis. So all of the zucchinis, all of the bush pumpkins that have been planted in here, not looking very good. They are looking very yellow, so I don't know that they're going to survive this year. I think I have some succession ones growing. I need to make sure I do actually, but yeah, these guys in ground not looking so hot, especially in comparison to the ones in that pepper bed. The ones in that pepper bed are looking so good, but these guys, no. I've also planted some okra in here. So okra, again, I've tried a couple years to grow okra and it just doesn't like me, but this guy looks pretty good. The one over there looks all right. I've got a few of them in here. So let's hope for the best with the okra this year, because I have tried to grow it multiple times and I've actually never eaten okra, so I don't even know if I like them, but I really, really want to try. So let's hope that the okra grows this year. There's always things, right? There's always things that grow really well. There's always things that don't grow really well. Last year I had a super, super good tomato year. This year, I'm hoping to have the same with the tomatoes again. I also want the same with the peppers. I also want heaps of zucchinis. I also want heaps of pumpkin. But I'd be really happy if we got another bumper crop of tomatoes and a bumper crop of peppers, because those are the 2 main things that we probably eat. Peppers are super expensive here in New Zealand, so I really don't buy them. but they're one of our favorite veg to eat. Okay, and the other thing I have growing in here are my tomatillos. My tomatillos are so tall and they have so many flowers on them. This is actually the tallest that my tomatillos have ever grown. I actually waited to plant them out this year until they were probably almost to the point of suffering, and they're like little pots, but they have grown the tallest this year than they have grown any other year. Typically I put them out into the garden when they're smaller, about the size of like the okra, and they will get bushier, but they'll get about half this height, and then they just get bushy. And we get tomatillos, we get plenty of tomatillos, but they never get quite this tall. So I think, you know, the trick might be to plant them out later, let them get taller, and see what happens. I guess this year will be the telling whether I should just plant them out sooner and get the tomatillos we get, or to let them grow taller, stake them a bit, and see if we end up with more tomatillos. But it's looking really, really good. This is my eggplant bed this year. Last year was kind of a mishmash of tomatoes and random things. This year, eggplants. So I've never planted this many eggplants, and I haven't planted these varieties before. Actually, I planted this variety. So this is a Zacconi, something. They're like longer, striped purple and white eggplant. Also, this is like a beautiful purple color at the top. These are Florence eggplants. These are round baseball or softball size eggplant. They are also striped. I think both of these are like an Italian eggplant. Then down at this far end, I have the big like black beauty eggplants. So I'm super excited. I'm hoping we get lots of eggplant this year. So last year eggplant did grow for me. However, when I'm selling plants at the markets, everyone's really hesitant to buy the eggplants because they have had such poor luck with them here. In this bed, it gets quite hot. It gets a lot of sun, although last year I didn't have those sweet peas in there, so not sure how it's going to go. But this is a really hot, nice bed, I think, for them to grow in, and I'm hoping we'll have a lot of luck again this year, and a lot more eggplants this year, because I've planted heaps more. They're looking really good already. They're getting big. They have huge leaves on them. They're starting to put on a few flowers, so I'm thinking good things. I'm thinking positive here. There are other things at this end of the bed as well. So I have my stakes in, so more zucchinis, and it looks like we definitely have a zucchini growing in there. So in the next few days, we are gonna be eating zucchini. These onions, so I did a weird thing with these onions. These onions, this is the first year they've actually looked this good, and I can see they're starting to bulb up a little bit, but these onions were actually down at the other end of this bed, down there, and they essentially were in the way. I needed to plant eggplants there. I wanted to plant other things down there, which we'll talk about, and I needed to move them. So I actually dug these onions up and moved them down to this end of the bed and just kind of filled in extra spaces. I don't know if that's something that you should be doing. I think there was some of the root system that I left behind over there. The root system was actually quite large. They may not bulb up anymore. They were going so well. I mean, they look like they're doing okay, but I don't know if they're going to bulb up. I don't know if that was something I shouldn't have done. But we tried it, and we're gonna see what happens. There are still some down there that I didn't dig up, but these guys, I don't know, they look all right now, but we'll see what happens. I also have another butternut plant growing there, and outside of the bed here, this is actually Cape gooseberries. So the Cape gooseberry plants, I don't know, they haven't been here for a few years now, but there's one growing and it looks beautiful. We're gonna have fruit soon. Last year I did put Cape gooseberries all along that ugly fence over there, and that has now been completely overtaken by weeds because it was infested with spiders, and I didn't want to get in there to get the fruits. I didn't want to get in there to clear anything out, but there are Cape gooseberries growing in there. I checked it yesterday. I was able to get in a little bit and I ate one of the fruits. There are definitely fruits in there and they're ready. They're regrowing from last year, but I don't know how many are actually going to be harvested because I don't like the spiders. But we have this one growing here, so that's good. Then at this end of the bed, I have zucchini growing on either end, but also in the middle, I have a green zebra tomato and cucumbers growing there. The green zebras are actually not looking fantastic. You can see their stem has powdery mildew on it. I'm hoping that doesn't transfer onto the cucumbers. See, there's been an issue, right? I have been preparing all of these plants for market, and there's been so many things I've been growing and making sure that they look beautiful for selling, and I have been neglecting my seedlings a little bit. So my seedlings have been getting too big for their pots out on the deck, and I haven't been spending the time I usually spend in the garden getting everything planted, or I have, but I've been a little bit late at doing that. So some of my plants have been hurt because of that. So I'm hoping that these green zebras will still be okay, because this is the first year I'm growing the green zebra. So I was really excited about them, and I'm hoping they still produce for me, but they don't look good. But speaking of things vertical, this is my favorite thing in the garden so far this year. I had planted these sweet peas in autumn thinking that they were going to be flowering throughout the winter, and they didn't get taller than like this. And then a couple months ago, as soon as the weather started to warm up even slightly, they just exploded. And now I have so many flowers on these sweet peas, and they're so beautiful. They're so beautiful. I love just like looking at the garden from the deck, or looking at the garden as I walk in, or just coming into the garden and just staring at these sweet peas because they're gorgeous. They're gorgeous. And the variety that I chose, I'll put it up on the screen. It is supposed to be one of the more fragrant of the types of sweet peas, but unless I like get up close and smell them, I don't actually smell them. So I don't know if it's just my sniffer is off or what, but their beauty is enough. I love, 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 love these sweet peas and how they're just covering my trellis. Love it until the spiders come. All right, we've moved on to the last garden bed in the main garden section, and the last bed we're going to talk about today, and that is this bed here. This has all of my determinant tomatoes. So it's another bed full of tomatoes. There are a dozen tomatoes in here, and these are my paste tomatoes. These will all put on their tomatoes around the same time, which I planted these a little bit earlier this year, so it may be, the harvest may be a little bit earlier to start with. I also have my lettuce growing in here. I have a couple more trailing pumpkins coming off of the edges, and this is also where I've put my tall marigolds. So my tall marigolds will end up growing up about 1 meter high, so they'll end up as tall as the tomatoes and just have these beautiful, beautiful blooms in the center, and it will look stunning. Now you can also see that here in front of me are my blueberry plants. I have 2 blueberry plants. I have one back there and this one here. This one is just covered in blueberries, and I am so excited to eat them. I have not covered them yet. Last year we had blueberries, not as many as was on here this year. I put a netting over them to stop the birds from getting to them. I think I ate maybe 5 blueberries, and the birds snuck in still and ate all of the rest. So it was like a failed attempt at blueberries last year. But those are the things that I have growing in this year's garden. I hope you all come back for next month's garden tour to see how everything's going, and hopefully by then we'll have some harvest as well. In the meantime, check out some of these other videos that I have and stay up to date with the ones that I plan on posting between now and the next garden tour. And I will catch you guys in the next one. See ya.